What's going on, guys? I'm here with Cory Provus from Minnesota. This is second time winning Sportscaster of the Year. Cory is the Minnesota Twins radio play-by-play broadcaster. He also covers college football and basketball for the Big Ten Network and Fox Sports. Cory, congratulations again, and thank you for joining us and answering some of our questions.
It's my pleasure. Good to see you and good to be with you.
Awesome. So, Cory, what was your career path like on your way to the position you're in now? Was it linear? Did you know what you wanted to do straight out of college or as a young kid? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I wanted to do this from the time I was about 6, 7. At that point in my life, I realized that my athletic peak was right about there. So then, in terms of actual playing
Right.
competitively in sports, it kind of went downhill after that. But growing up in the Chicagoland area, I was just a huge, fan of sports, and then quickly became just a big Chicago Cub fan. And that was the team that I first fell in love with. And as much as I loved watching the '84 team, I was 6 years old, but still the Leon Durhams, the Ryan Sandbergs, and the Jody Davises and Ron Says. As much as I loved watching them, I loved watching Harry Carey more. He was the guy that just kind of drew me into it. And then as I got older, I realized that it didn't take too long, but as I got older, I realized that I had family in the business. My cousin is Brad Sham, who's been calling the Dallas Cowboys for almost 50 years. He's my first cousin. And
Wow.
so the older I was getting, the more interested I was into what Brad was doing and how he got there. And then I just always knew that this was what I wanted to do, and that's what led me to go to Syracuse. And then out of school, when I graduated, I pretty much went to grad school, but I did so in Blacksburg, Virginia, and my teacher was Bill Roth, who's been a perennial winner of the Virginia Sportscaster of the Year many times during his days calling Virginia Tech hockey, football, and basketball. But I was working for him and with him for 3 years. Then I was working with guys like Stan Cotton and guys like Wes Durham. So these were people that were older than me, but were wiser and better. And just if you were 22, 23, 24, 25 years old, you had nothing to do but just listen and learn. And I was lucky enough to learn from those guys. And that's what kind of got me going in my early 20s, and eventually landed here in Minneapolis.
That's amazing. Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to interview Stan Cotton, so that was amazing. But so currently, what is your favorite part of your job? It could be in any of your roles. It could be, a tangible thing, an intangible thing. What is your favorite part of what you do now?
The unknown. I love going to the ballpark every day and not knowing there's no script. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's a fascinating thing. And it's different than other sports, I think, other than football and basketball that come to mind. You have a pretty good idea, not to say that upsets don't happen, but the better team on paper, I feel like, normally wins in those other sports. Whereas baseball, they should win, but even the best pitchers in the game have bad nights.
Right.
And that to me is always fascinating, that you just don't know what you're going to see. And I love that part of my job. I can make all my notes, I can make my scorebook out, I can prepare and have all these things that written down that I want to talk about. But then by the second, third, fourth, certainly the fifth inning, the game has its own storyline. And what I prepared for, it may be dated, it may be insignificant, it may be inaccurate, because the game has already become kind of its own entity. So that to me is what gets to me every day. And it's a long season, but every day is just unique. And the unknown is something that I really look forward to.
Awesome. Yeah, that truly is the case, right? It's like you could have watched sports for 30, 40 years and you watch a football game, basketball game, baseball game, especially it seems like in baseball, something happens like the first time you've ever seen it. And it is extremely fascinating. So thus far in your career, what, again, intangible or tangible, what do you consider to be like the greatest highlight of your career thus far?
There've been a couple. I was my first job in Major League Baseball. The year was 2007, and I got a chance to work on the Cubs broadcast, doing pre and post game, and the fifth inning of play by play on radio. Pat Hughes would take a break, and so I'd get the fifth inning. But again, growing up as a diehard Cub fan, I was 28 years old and traveling with the team and just living this childhood fantasy. And the Cubs were good that year and they went to the playoffs. They clinched in Cincinnati. And my job was to cover the post-game locker room, beer, champagne celebration. And I'll never forget that night. I'm just doing interview after interview, and Will Oman was a reliever on the Cub team at the time, and we're doing a live interview, and he's drinking a beer, and he says, "Cory, you're awfully dry. Can I pour a beer on you as we talk? We're live on the air." And I said, "Absolutely." Now he poured like a Budweiser on me, or a Bud Light, but Old Style was a sponsor. Old Style was the beer sponsor for our radio broadcast. So on the air, what I said was, he's pouring a nice cold Old Style on me. So for a Cub fan growing up, to have a Cub player ask me if he could pour a beer on my head while covering a locker room playoff celebratory moment, that's tough to beat. And then after that, I got the privilege to work with Bob Uecker for 3 years in Milwaukee, and I never took any day with him for granted. There were some lousy teams that we had together. 2011 was good. That was my last year there. But, watching Bob and learning from Bob every day is something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And then 2019, watching the Minnesota Twins, set a Major League Baseball record, hitting more home runs than any other team in Major League history. Something that I'll never forget. I mean, that Bomba squad team, they fizzled against your Yankees once again in the playoffs, but still, that regular season was
for the record as well.
Yeah,
and for the
it was a record, and just something that had never been seen before. And I maybe we'll see it again. I'm not sure if they're going to fix the ball or not, but until that happens, I'll never forget that 2019 season.
Awesome to hear those experiences and the people you've got to meet on the way. That's really amazing as well. So for someone who is new into the sports media industry, they could be my age, a little younger. I'm 21. So, beginning in college, about to graduate, or anyone who's in the industry or thinking about getting into it, what is the best piece of advice you can give someone like that?
I always tell people, don't be picky about that first job. I went to Syracuse, and I had some really good friends. We all did radio together and broadcasting together. And they were adamant. Some were adamant that they weren't going to go to smaller markets or smaller towns. They were only going to go to New York or Boston or Philly or Dallas or LA, wherever they were from, Chicago. And the majority of them, if they went there, they did so, but no longer broadcasting. That they just got out of the field and did something else. Where I was of the mindset, I'll go anywhere. I thought my first job was going to be in Charleston, West Virginia. I interviewed for a job right out of school, and I was going to anchor news on a statewide Mountaineer News Network kind of a channel. It was going to be Monday through Friday anchoring radio news, but then nights and weekends would shift into high school play-by-play for football and basketball. And I thought that's a great job, full-time job. And I thought I was going to get it. I didn't. But then my next job was with Bill Roth in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I got connected with not just him, but a company called ISP Sports, and they were a smaller but growing media rights company that now is a part of IMG. Now it's IMG College Radio, and they have since merged. But they began in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, with a couple of schools, and I was lucky enough to get in with them early on in the process, and just had great experience. But my point is that don't be picky. I mean, I think get on the air wherever you can, get experience. And now with all these different platforms and all these ways to get your name and your voice and your face heard and seen, you should have nonstop possibilities. Nothing should be holding you back about putting together a tape. And you don't need a game. That's what I always tell people all the time. You don't need a game. Do a sportscast. Just check your writing, see how your writing is, and just do a mock sportscast. So I think there's so many ways now to prepare to do this without, having this great tape and going to a sporting event and sitting in the stands and doing games. That's what we did in college as practice. But I think there are just so many, ways to kind of get some experience. They don't always have to necessarily be on the air to even get that first opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's a good lesson for sure. Get your reps where you can, almost, right?
Yeah.
Get your work in. So as a multiple time winner, have you been to awards weekend?
I have not.
Okay.
So my full-time job kind of gets in the way of that.
Yeah.
I've asked Dave many times if he could shift it once. For those that live in cool climates, it wouldn't be bad to go to North Carolina in December. I mean,
Right.
yes, it could be a little chilly, but it's going to be better than 20 below.
Right.
So I've asked the Grand Poobah about that. He said no. West Durham has a lot of clout with that group as well. I know he's busy doing college hoops and football, so he can't do it. But no, unfortunately, I've not been to awards weekend. I knew it used to be in Salisbury, but now it's in Winston.
Right.
So there's more of a pull for me because I lived there. Excuse me, for 3 years to come back to Winston and see some friends that still live there. So maybe it'll happen, but the baseball schedule kind of gets in the way of me being able to be down there.
Yeah, it sure does. Well, those are all the questions I have, Cory. Thank you again for joining me and answering these questions, and congratulations. Do you have anyone you want to thank or say anything you want to say to the people who'll be watching or listening to this before we go?
Yeah, just thank you to so many people that put me in this position to succeed. It wasn't just myself. Obviously, my wife is my partner in crime, and I have two young kids that are 7 and 5, and so with my travels, I need her to kind of be the leader of this family, and she is that, and then some. So I want to thank her, number one. But getting back to my peers, this is really a cool award because my fellow peers throughout the state recognize me for this award. So I'm very honored by that, and it is a team that I work with and for with the Minnesota Twins. There's a lot of people that behind the scenes that put us in a position to succeed. So I want to thank the Minnesota Twins and the Poled family and Dave St. Peter and my boss Andrew Halverson, my broadcast crew, Dan Gladden and Chris Atterbury and Mark Janoski, and so many more that make this happen. And to people that gave me that first chance, to Ben Sutton at ISP back in the day, to Chris Ferris and Jamie Fry and Janine Lalick, and Mike Wolfert and Bill Roth and Stan Cotton and Wes Durham, and John Cox and John Morris, and so many of my peers that I worked with doing a variety of different things at ISP back in the day. So they're a big part of my success, and so I really appreciate this award.
Awesome. Thank you again, Cory, and congratulations.
Thank you. Great to visit with you.